Hi, have you ever wanted to look inside the brain? You do? Okay. Hi, I'd like to book a brain transplant. Psychoanalytic criticism is a literary theory that focuses on the mental and psychological aspects of media, its creators, and its readers. It was developed in the early 1900s by Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud. On top of psychoanalytic theory, he was most famous for this, and this. The idea behind psychoanalysis is the view that texts are the product of the writer's state of mind or personality, and psychoanalytic criticism usually revolves around the author's mental and emotional traits as well as their consciousness. Freud argued that all forms of artistic expression consist of an imaginary fulfillment of wishes, some of which would normally be forbidden in real life, either due to logical circumstances or because of society's sense of morality. Freud also believed that writers would use media as a way to express their fantasies, including forbidden ones and especially intimate ones. Oh wow, that explains a lot. If you really think about it, psychoanalytic theory is basically an amalgamation of all the different theories and ideas that psychologists like Freud studied throughout his life and career. A major aspect of psychoanalytic theory is the tripartite mind. The tripartite mind consists of the ego, superego, and id. If you really think about it, the tripartite mind is somewhat of a balancing act between the three factions, or rather, two of them, with the other being a referee of sorts. Starting with the id is the unconscious part of the mind. The best way to describe it is your primal urges. Think of your basic primal instincts: food, water, clothing, shelter, safety, protection, socialization, romance, the list goes on. A lot of these are influenced by the id, and usually the id doesn't really take into consideration the consequences nor the circumstances of the situation. The id wants these things as soon as possible. When left alone, the id is capable of extremely dangerous things. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the superego. The superego is basically your morality and conscience. It dictates what we believe is right and wrong, and sometimes this morality is influenced by society's expectations no matter if they're good or not. The superego works very well off the id as well, creating a sense of shame or anxiety when the id does something bad. When you've just committed manslaughter, you wouldn't go, "Oh, I just killed a guy." You'd go, "Oh god, I just killed a guy!" Finally, there's the ego. Like I implied earlier, the ego basically acts as a referee that allows the other two parts of the psyche to coexist and cooperate. Like I said, think of it as a balancing act of sorts. With the existence of the ego, the desires of the superego and id are filtered to ensure the best balance of fulfilling your desires while also keeping a sense of morality, as too much of one or the other could lead to dangerous consequences. The ego is more or less meant to be a balance between the superego and id. Another major aspect of psychoanalytic theory is the Oedipal and Electra complex. Oh no. Named after the play Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. Man, these are hard names. The Oedipal and Electra complex is the unconscious desire in children to, and I quote, "replace the same-sex parent and sleep with the opposite-sex one," unquote. Freud also believed that the basis for every person's intimate attraction comes from their parents, and that people seek out romantic connections unconsciously looking for people with similar personalities to their parents. He believed that these feelings were repressed out of a fear of punishment or disgust from the same-sex parent if they were to ever find out, which is honestly a normal reaction in my opinion. Moving on, some other things to think about with psychoanalytic theory are the role of dreams, consciousness, or psychological disorders in the text, the influence of childhood events on one's unconscious, and how your own psychology might affect your interpretation of the work. As an example, let's go hog wild and apply psychoanalysis to something that you would least expect. Let's analyze Tom and Jerry, specifically a scene from the 2021 movie because that's like the only one I could find on Netflix. Anyway, the scene that we are looking at starts with Tom, who is walking in an alleyway outside of the hotel, which is the main setting of the movie, during a stormy night. He watches Jerry, who is sitting on a windowsill in the hotel, drinking a martini and blasting music. Tom is jealous of him, considering he is outside in the rain while Jerry is inside, safe and warm. Just then, a devil of his likeness pops up above his shoulder, which represents his unconscious, or his id. The shoulder devil basically tells Tom to go and catch Jerry so that he can be hired as a pest controller for the hotel and basically live there. Just as he's about to take action, an angel, also of his likeness, pops up above his other shoulder, which represents his conscious, or his superego. This shoulder angel suggests Tom should consider working things out with Jerry so that they can both live in the hotel together as friends without resorting to violence, which we all know won't happen considering this is Tom and Jerry. They argue for a bit, and in a rather hilarious turn of events, the shoulder devil then tells the shoulder angel that it should be up to Tom himself, who represents the ego, to decide what his course of action should be. This is actually a trick by the shoulder devil to encourage Tom to pursue Jerry, encouraging him to do what the id is saying after the angel disappears, and showing that he has succumbed to his primal urges. Minus the twist at the end, this kind of gag is actually very common in media, and is known as the good angel, bad angel trope, which originated from old cartoons. This trope is a simple yet effective way to show basic psychoanalysis, and how the areas of the tripartite mind can create conflict internally within the characters. This trope has been used in cartoons, obviously, but it's also seen used in movies, video games, theater, comics, anime, web series, and even pinball machines. What? Regardless, there are many ways to show psychological conflicts in stories, and there are so many ways to make use of this lens in writing and analysis in both serious and non-serious settings. This lens is so vast and diverse in its ideas that I genuinely believe almost any piece of media can at least be somewhat glimpsed from this perspective and still have some sort of valuable analysis to come from it, despite the weirder aspects of this lens. Well, I learned something today, and it's that the mind and psyche of a person or even a fictional character can be a very interesting thing to look at and analyze. Psychoanalytic theory is just one of the many lenses and perspectives people can take when looking at any piece of media. There are a lot of fascinating things you can discover from this form of analysis, and it's so interesting to me that I must ask, what can you discover through the use of psychoanalysis on your favorite piece of media? Oh wait, I gotta take this. Hello? What do you mean my brain transplant is tomorrow?